Hello everyone, we are live. We're live here. Let's go to our coaching session. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle at Ledenon. So yeah. So let's take a look. We are doing Ledenon. And I was taking a look, and last season we did well at Ledenon. And I was happy and confident. And that's when we met Ezra's. We raced Ezra's for the first time, I think. Um, and he joined our community from there. Damn, I have like a butt pillow here, but it's kind of weird right now. What's going on? Yeah, these are the behind the scenes that you guys don't see. So I have like an actual racing chair, I think, and the racing chair, like it's pretty hard. So like if you are even like if I was racing on this, I would like to have something like this. But because I'm streaming and I race a lot here and I spend a lot of time, I need something that takes care of my butt. And then I have this back support, lumbar support pillow. That's mostly good because this cushion here brings me up. So let's do like this. Yeah, it doesn't feel good to be honest. Something happened, but it's okay. Anyways, enough of my bottom. Um, we suffered here yesterday. If you were in the stream yesterday, you saw how painful this was. And today we improved. We had a much better day. A much better day. And I mean, it was way more consistent, a little bit faster, but still like too far from where we want to be. So almost a full second slower. And honestly, it's all over the place. So different approaches here, different ways of doing things, and I can see where it's over slowing me down. Hello, sir. Hello, hello. We're just waiting on Gianni here. I was reviewing my lap, and like this is a funny corner because does he carry much more speed than I do? He does. Like he carries like 7, and I can barely corner. I can barely go around this corner. Yeah. Like you see, I'm using more brakes here, and I cannot stop the car, and I cannot corner. It's a very very tough track. Did you race here already? Like how did you improve here at all, Craig? Let me see. Offline testing. 25? That's a joke. It's the right track. Me 1 hour ago. My best was a 31.15 something. 146. Not available. Yeah, I'll have to fix this later, I guess. Maybe open the Garage 61 app. It used to stay on my bar here. No, right? Yeah, like today I I did like a better job today. Like I wasn't doing like 35s, 34s. I was in the 31 realm, but like getting to the bottom of the 31 was hard. And like 25, I have no idea what this is. Maybe I was completing the lap and then I reset because I missed the last corner and it just counted as this lap time, which is BS. But I think the best one was one of the last ones. Was this one. But you see, like 31, 31, 31, 31, 31. Like we're consistent, like in the 31, between the 31.3 and the 31, like or point 0.1 and point 0.5, maybe point 0.6. But it's like how many laps I destroyed in the middle. These are all laps that something went very wrong, and I was just like, yeah, I give up. So let's see here. Oh, actually, Jen is calling us.
Good evening, Alan. How are you, brother?
Hello, sir. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. How's your week been, alright?
Good, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How about
Good,
yours?
good. Not a bad week. Yeah, no, good, good. Busy as always. Busy racing, just like yourself, brother. So we're all, we're all busy loving it. But how was your week at Foster's here? Oh, sorry, the international layout, I
The
should say. How's
international,
that
yeah.
been going?
So
Yeah,
good. I think like one of the things that we discussed about consistency and having the mind in the right like place during the race.
yep,
I'm
yep,
building that. I'm working on that. So the first day we started one race in P1, and then I made a
yep.
silly mistake, and then I
Okay,
went to P2, but I finished P2
okay,
chasing P1.
okay. Sure.
Then the
Yep.
other two races, I was faster than I started P2, and I only started
Yep.
P2 because I screwed up quali.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I was even lucky to start P2 in those two races. But I was faster than P1, but not like
Mhm.
faster enough to get a
Mhm.
clear like this is the right place to overtake and it's going to be a clean overtake. It'll be something super risky like in the chicanes or something like that. And I'm
Yep.
always like waiting, okay, let me try on the last corner. That's a good place. Like if I can have a better exit.
Mhm.
But I have to be like zero point 0.2, like something closer. So I can do like a clean dive and get out of there safe in one piece. But
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I never had a chance. So but I
Mhm.
was happy because the two races were behind. I was faster
Okay.
than P1
Right.
and I kept the pressure. Like they had a hard time. I can tell that. Like they had a
Yeah.
hard time.
Yeah. 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 Sure.
And were good races.
Yeah.
On the second day,
Yeah.
again like same type of pace, doing well. I spun on the first corner of the first lap in the first
Right. Okay.
race, so that was amazing.
Yeah.
But then I caught up like
Yeah.
from P last to P6, some freebies,
Right.
some
Okay.
overtakes,
Yeah.
because then
Sure.
like we had the difference of pace, and then it's easier like to just put on the side and pass.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm happy. Like overall, I'm happy. We got like another two P3s. We're increasing our rating, but
Right.
coming to Ledenon, and it's funny because I raced Ledenon last season with them
Right.
twos, and I don't
Yes.
think I don't remember if we reviewed together.
We haven't. We haven't.
So it was
No, we
before
haven't
you.
looked here yet. Yeah.
Um, and I had a great week. I had a great week because it's a very technical course, and a lot
Yes.
of people just kill themselves. And I was able to keep my pace. I wasn't as fast as the like first like P1, P2, the guys who were really fast there. But just by being
Right.
consistent on my lap times, I would finish like
Yes.
podiums like all the time.
Yes.
So
Okay. Sure.
I had
Yep.
that memory, and then I got improved since then. So I'm very excited to go around this corner again. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw anything from the stream yesterday. It was
Yeah. I watched it. Yeah.
likely the most humiliating experience because I was
Sure.
like so off pace, so off pace.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
And today I tried
Yeah.
again. So I think like yesterday I was mentally exhausted from like life in general, and I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was playing
Sure.
because today I went there and did much better, but it
Yeah.
wasn't as good as I wish I had done before our session. But that's where
Sure.
we are right
Okay.
now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So initially starting out with Alton, yeah, again, I watched a few of your races. I think I was watching one where you were behind a 4K driver, I think it was, and I think you were right up behind him, and I think you had pace on him for sure, and I think you were faster mainly through out of the second chicane, I think it was, and you were always getting a really good run coming out of there, and you were being able to nearly there or thereabouts set up a move, nearly majority of the time. But I think, then that's where it sort of starts to come down to, really making sure, okay, where you can and where you can't pass. Now, the problem is with these cars, as I'm sure you know very well, Alan, is that, like, to try and pass someone that's on the same pace as you, it's very hard in this car, to be honest with you. In my opinion, it probably has to be one of, if not the hardest cars to pass with on iRacing, in my opinion, to do it cleanly as well. That's the biggest problem because the braking the braking performance in this car just doesn't give you any confidence to feel like you can brake really any harder than 65% without blowing it out the water almost in a way. That's usually what I tend to feel like. If you ever go harder than, like, 70, 75, 80, you just ABS and you just go straight, right? And whenever you go straight, you're probably just going to end up into another car. So when you're dealing at a track like Alton, where, typically already as a circuit, it's quite tight. It's not really a lot of space as it is already. Trying to figure out where and when you're going to be putting or setting up a move around that circuit is quite tough. But again, that's just where I guess, qualifying becomes even more important. Timing becomes even more important.
Yeah.
Just staying calm in moments like that is very critical. But I think it's great to hear that you've been having a pretty decent week. I think we're still searching for a win, if I'm not mistaken. We've been
Yeah.
getting a lot of
Yeah.
P2s, I think, right? Yeah. So it's on the way. It's on the way. But again, as we've talked about many a time in the past, as for as long as we've known each other, consistency is better than wins, right? If you can get more consistent P2s and consistent wins, that's what matters. I mean, I remember, what was it? I think it was like last year or the year before. I think it was the year before in Formula 2, for example. The champion Gabriel Bortoleto, he didn't actually win a race, and it was kind of a case of he just got consistent results and he won the championship, and now he's a Formula One driver. And he didn't even really win it. I think he won maybe one race the whole season, but he just got consistent results. And that's how racing is. You don't have to win. It's just about being consistent. And it's the same thing with iRacing. How you get your iRating up, how you improve. It's just about getting those consistent P2s, P3s, T2s, P3s. And of course, we all want to win, but then at the end of the day, depending on where the track is, what the track is, who you're driving against, sometimes it's like, what, like, I could risk it, but what's the risk versus reward? I might get an extra 15 I rating for getting the win, but if I get it wrong, then I might be losing 130 again. So it's very much a case of just thinking about that. So it seems like, yeah, the consistency is there, which is great. It's just about finding that extra sort of margin. Now, in terms of Lebanon, this track's tough, man. Honestly, like,
Yes.
for me, this is a track that it has to be, for majority of new drivers that I've had come through, over the years. It has to be probably one of the toughest ones to deal with because at the end of the day, there's no real proper markers of where you want to be. Obviously, the track limits are crazy. You can use a lot of the circuit. You can position yourself, really, really right on the edge of being either within the limits of the circuit or outside the limits of the circuit, and you can really kind of, be playing with fire in terms of where you want to be in that level. But it's just really about, I think, executing everything that we've talked about absolutely perfectly. That's what this track really comes down to, I think, is what I've realized more so than not. And I had a look at your laps last night. Obviously, you've done some more this morning, well, this morning. But before I went to bed last night, I just went through and I saw some things that I think, obviously it was just more so our usual kind of topics where either, there were a lot of cases where we were maybe releasing the brake a little bit early or, starting to trail a little bit too early. And then obviously you realize maybe later and then you kind of, you react to that. And then obviously by reacting to that, you lose a little bit of time and all this sort of stuff like that. But yeah, the track with the car, it's a very interesting combo. To me, I feel like this circuit is very good for like small little open wheeler cars, like your Formula V's or your Formula Fords. Not necessarily a great track for like cars like the Mazda or the M2 or anything that's kind of starting to get a little bit more bigger and a little bit more higher powered. They don't really suit the circuit, but when you do hook it up and when you do get it right, it can be quite a fun circuit. But again, a very hard one to overtake, but I think a very hard one in terms of people finding pace as well, because this is usually one of the tracks where I find the biggest speed differential. Like probably from P1 to P last, you're looking sometimes between 4 to 5 seconds, even in top split almost in a way. So it's probably the biggest time differential that you'll see across the calendar, in my opinion, just because of the way it is. So, I mean, what do you feel like for your end already as an initial point after doing a fair few laps here? What do you feel like your struggle point is? Because obviously you're getting a good idea of how to apply, how to approach. What do you feel like your kind of misunderstanding with this circuit is at this point now?
So I think like what I'm seeing as my problem is I'm either over slowing down at the beginning of the corner,
Okay.
and then because we
Yeah.
have like 1,000 corners, I'm just too
Yeah.
slow. Like that's
Okay.
and then sometimes I try to correct on the throttle. Sometimes I just
Yeah.
commit to the brake and I just try to release earlier. And
Okay.
sometimes I'm trying to overcorrect on the other side, and I'm not like braking enough, and then I'm carrying
Okay.
too much speed, and then I just like lose or waste a lot of time on the exit. But there are
Okay.
some like very very tricky corners. So we have like the first ones I think are 1 through 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one I don't know like how our delta is right now, but I feel like I can do
Mm.
consistently in one way, and like maybe 80% of the time I do like the way I'm doing now, which is fair. Like it's good enough. But then the next one is a sharp right corner that is
Yeah.
downhill, and there is if you go like when you go around that, the car
Yeah.
wants to lose the rear like, and you have a very
Yes.
specific point. At least from my experience there's a very
Yes.
specific moment you want to hit the
Yes.
throttle. If you do like
Yes.
a fraction of a second before, you're gonna spin. A fraction of a second
Yeah.
later, you just have like the snappy back, and because you're on
Yeah.
third, we're not gonna spin, but you feel like you're
Yeah.
wasting time on the exit. And then like
Yeah. Yeah.
the last corner is just
Yeah.
like that's just insane. I just close my eyes, hit the
Yeah.
brakes, and I pray it's gonna go right.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it is a very momentum-based track. But at the same time, again, with the natural kind of way that this car works, almost in a way, it is very, very understeery, and that can also be a big factor as to trying to make sure you position yourself well, you put yourself in the right spots, you time everything well, and that's really where the sort of big difference is sort of coming from. So honestly, when I look at this lap, I think the big spots, obviously, where the time is disappearing is mainly T1 to 4, which is quite valid. To 10 and 11, which I think is kind of the uphill double left as you're coming around the back. So I think it's this kind of left here at the back end. And then, in all honesty, the final corner is actually really good in this particular instance as well. You're only well, in all honesty, you're actually faster than me through the final corner by an ever so slight amount. But again, it's always that case of consistently wise, is it a one lap wonder, or is it a consistency thing? So obviously we'll have a look at that and see how that's looking at. So yeah, let's run through, let's see, let's chat, and we'll see what's kind of going on here. So T1 here has always been an interesting topic for me, because I remember when I was mainly doing this track, it was when I used to run back in the beginning of my journey of kind of, trying to, be decent at sim racing. I used to run the Formula V's a fair bit back at the beginning of my journey. And obviously this track came out, one of the seasons, and obviously, it was an interesting one. But I think the big thing that was the biggest difference with this circuit back when it first came out is that there was basically no track limits basically in the way. No track limits pretty much existed, bar you know like the Exeter T1 for example. Everywhere else would have been was no off track, right? So you could go all the way out to like the sand, you could go all the way out to the grass areas. There was no off tracks, right? You could do whatever you want. So you could pretty much get on the power that early coming out of a hairpin and just completely wash out so wide out to the sand, out to the grass areas. You could wash out all the way out there and you wouldn't get an off track. So it was a completely different sort of sense of track almost in a way back then. But of course they fixed it pretty quickly, because of course it was a bit dumb, the track limits. Well, there was no track limits, that was the point. But this T1 here, I couldn't really ever figure it out. And there was a particular guy that I remember in the V cars in particular that was a fair few tenths faster than me around this sort of circuit, and I couldn't really exactly figure out why and how it kind of was. Now, one time he was in the same race as me, and he out qualified me, and obviously I was like, okay, let's see what he's doing. And I watched his line here through turn one, because I was watching, his laps, and also just, mainly when he was in races where maybe I wasn't right up behind him, he would always gain a good like 3 or 4 tenths on me through T1 alone as a point. So I was like, oh my God, like what am I doing wrong here at turn one? But the problem is with this T1 is that, again, it has so many directories. Like you feel like you can have 4 or 5 different lines through this corner if you really wanted to, and you could there or thereabouts make them all work pretty similarly to each other. But I saw a really weird line that he was taking that just did not really make any sense for me. But when I tried it, it actually made the most sense in the world. And it was a really, really weird thing around this track that I sort of haven't really experienced at a lot of other ones. So obviously coming in, right, you're coming in down the fourth gear, obviously trailing the brake all the way through. And then as you kind of get down to the sort of left-hand part, you kind of just get back on the power. And you obviously just feathering your feet around, getting down the third gear. Now, it was this curb on the outside that I noticed that he was using a lot. Now, a lot of the drivers that I've seen, or maybe potentially even your situation, you might not be maybe using as much curb as maybe what I am. You might still be using a little bit, but maybe not as much as what I am. But when I tested it out, because I always used to keep my car on the left-hand side of this curb, right? I would never get my right wheels over it or any of the car over it. I just stayed to the left of it. But one time I gave it a go, right? And I saw him doing it. I was like, let me give it a go. I found that whenever you kind of put your car over this exit curb, so when you let the car roam out and let it hit this curb, for some reason, it just pitches to the inside. The car just turns, and you can kind of see it in the replay here. It goes from being outside, 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 outside. You get on the curb here, and you can see it just turns, right? If that curb wasn't there, the trajectory would still be to end up in that sand pit, almost in a way, right? So you can see that up until this point, it just pitches in, right? And it's something that you can feel so well. I don't know why and how it kind of happens. I don't know if it's maybe the elevation change, or maybe just there's just a little bit of a crown over the kind of exit curb or anything like that. But it seems to just pitch the race car into the corner whenever you get out on this curb base in a way. So my question to you is, are you getting out that wide when you're driving? Have you experienced getting out that wide, or are you trying to keep it more to the left?
No, so I've tried. I've tried a lot of things, and I tried
Okay.
getting that wide after seeing your you doing it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't been able to consistently go with my left tires on the curb,
yeah.
and the main reason
Okay.
is whenever I do it, usually I'm carrying too much speed, and then I just
Sure.
like
Yeah.
go off track. Because when you
Correct.
do
Yeah.
that, like you're very
Yeah.
close to off track, and I'm seeing like here on
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
screen now, what I
Mhm.
have is at that point I have
Mhm.
my right wheels on the outside of the curb, and my
Yeah.
left wheels are right inside of the white line. So maybe like
Yeah.
half a
So you
car.
just
I'm like half a car to
yeah.
the left.
Right. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you are right. The problem is that I have found through there is that if you are carrying too much speed, the effect doesn't really happen. You need to
Yeah.
be in that middle point of feeling like you're carrying not enough speed, but not carrying too much speed either. You need to be in that kind of middle ground. So yeah, it's something that now I find every single car it does it for me. If it's the Mazda, if it's this, if it's the F4, if it's the Formula Ford, if it's the Formula V, whatever I might drive around this track, if I do that input and I get my car making sure that it's all the way past that exit curb, all four wheels are off the racetrack almost in a way, that's what I feel happens. Every single time it pitches me in. If I don't hit that curb, I feel like I'm just turning, and my radius just makes me end up understeering almost in a way as I'm going through that sort of sequence. Or I have to make some reactionary input of maybe a little bit more brake pressure, or I have to do something to stop it from just understeering past the corner almost in a way. So obviously, what you can see mainly is the biggest difference here, I guess, is the entry line, right? So you can
Yeah.
obviously see here already in correlation to each other that you're entering into this whole sequence a lot higher than I am, right? So you're like kind of maybe diving in more past that first apex. So obviously that first curb is somewhere around here. You're kind of like nearly crossing over that. Is that fair to say? Are you trying to get quite close to that?
Yeah, I'm not trying like to hit it,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to get
Yeah.
close. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So typically, I don't want to be anywhere near that curb, almost in a way, as I'm coming in. I kind of want to be somewhere just in the center of the track. And that's the kind of key I've found with this corner is that if you can just be more, not on the inside or not too far on the outside, if you can just be in the middle of the circuit, it just allows you to have a better momentum sort of, phase all the way through the sort of corner. Because the problem is that, no, like we know we're just a normal corner, if we have a tighter radius coming into the corner, what's it usually going to mean? It's going to the actual apex, radius that we're going to have is going to be far too tight, and it's going to make us obviously compensate for that, and it's probably going to make us not be able to rotate. We're probably going to have to hop on the brakes more. There's probably something that's going to happen if we're doing that almost in a way, right? So I think what you need to basically be able to do is enter in a little bit sort of wider and be a little bit better positioned in that sense. Now, I'll be interested to see, like, when you carry just that right amount of speed coming into that little section, if you can feel what we're talking about here in the sense of, you can feel the car just kind of pitch into the corner. Because again, I noticed it straight away, and this was probably about 3 years ago when this track came out. I noticed it pretty much straight away. As soon as I did that, I was like, wow. And that was genuinely the difference between me being 4/10 off the world record to me then getting the world record. It was getting this turn one right, and it made that much of a difference. It was absolutely insane. But it's just one of those sort of things that, it's one of those little gimmicks of these certain tracks on iRacing that you kind of, you learn and you live to understand, through experience and through doing laps. And you'll probably find that, I'm sure, a lot of the, the really fast guys this week, at Ledenon, that you'll probably come across, like the 8K guys or the 6K guys or whatever, they'll probably be doing a very similar thing. But it's mainly just because that's, that's the line that you figure out. So yeah, like I said, you want to be more in the center, right? So you don't want to be hugging anywhere near this curb. You don't want to be all the way left-hand wheels down, down to that white line almost in a way. You don't want to be anywhere near that. You kind of want to be about a car length away from the curb. And then you're in the middle. You're just trailing the brake, trailing the brake, trailing the brake, trailing the brake. You get on the throttle a little bit, obviously at the apex there, just to kind of push it out wide, and then you're back on the brakes. You're down a gear, and you're just holding, and then you're obviously trailing into the apex, and then you can really, really cut that inside curb quite a lot, and you can power out of the apex, right? So it's definitely a really, really tough area, but in the way that you're going about it is just a lot of big inputs that you're putting in. So you can see you're braking nicely, you're trailing, big bit of throttle, right? Massive bit of throttle, and then a big bit of brake, which is, you just can see, it's just shifting around the speed you trap quite a fair bit. So here, 11k an hour is slower, then you're 7 kilometers an hour faster, then you're 10 kilometers an hour slower, then you're 1.5 faster, then you're 5.5 slower, right? So then those big reactionary differences that we both have, they're causing you to basically have really quick moments, really slow moments, really quick moments, really slow moments, and then ultimately, at the end of the day, you end up coming out of the corner slower. We're already on the back foot, right? So I think we just need to try and be a little bit more central, try and come in a little bit more central, do the braking in the same way, just don't try and be as aggressive on the throttle. If you feel like you have to be as aggressive on the throttle, you've probably overslowed it almost in a way, right? If you're not able to get up to about 50% and that feel okay, then you've overslowed it almost in a way. But again, just try and see if you can find any difference or notice any difference with going out really wide, and see if it just helps you to pitch the car. And again, I could notice it straight away when I did it properly. So maybe it's just about trying to feel it in the right capacity and get it to work in the way that you're needing it to. And hopefully, potentially, that should give you, the answer that you're looking for there. So, did you have any questions with all that?
No, like,
there, Alan? Any
I think
queries?
I think you just, like, you gave me something to target, like you gave something to aim for, which was I was missing before. Because if you look what I'm doing here, I'm reacting to the car, right? So I'm braking, and then because I'm going tighter than you are, as soon as I exit the second corner, I realize I overslowed down the car, and that's when I go like hard on the gas to have my car being pushed out to the outside, right, to open up the next corner.
True.
So that's why I hold like for so long. But then because I'm pushing too hard on the gas, now I have too much speed, and then I hit the brakes hard so I can like turn in and go around the corner, like cutting as much as I can. So it's kind of now that I have an idea, like, okay, I have to get at that point with my left wheels or my left tires on the curb. It's kind of like I can reverse engineer and have that mindset from the beginning, which I didn't have before. Before I was just like trying to get to the third corner as fast as I could, point to the inside and gain time there.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that was the same as me, right? And I think, honestly, this corner is really hard when you don't have a point to aim for, in my opinion. It's my aiming marker is me getting the car out to the outside, right? That's my aiming point. But if you don't have a point to aim for, you just feel like, first of all, this corner becomes very inconsistent, but as well, it just feels like you're losing time, which is obviously, as you can see, that's what's kind of going on. So, like I said, aim for the outside and see how that goes for you. I feel like that in itself should definitely help you massively, but I'll be looking forward to see if you can feel that feeling that we're looking for. Because again, like I could tell the difference night and day, and even back in time, I wasn't as maybe as experienced or as kind of, as aware, I suppose, as such big changes, but it was something that I could literally feel genuinely straight away. So, it's something that I do in every car that I drive here. That's my aiming point. I always aim to get the car out wide. If I don't get the car out wide, I lose 3/10 of a second, almost away, So when we look at, in comparison, you're losing 2/10. Realistically, it's there or thereabouts the same causation. You're losing something. So yeah, try and give that a go. See how that feels. And I'll be interested to see if you get any beneficiaries from that, which I'm sure you will. But hopefully, it should just make you a little bit more consistent in what you're trying to do as well, which of course is the most important thing for us. So yeah, just something to think about anyway. Now, coming into turn 5, so this corner here is obviously that first right-hand hairpin. So this one was really, really interesting because, yeah, like you said, just the beginning of today, the big thing with this one, obviously, is just the fact that, you know, first of all, the track falls away from you, right? So you have a really, really big elevation change. You also have a really aggressive bit of camber at the apex in this corner as well, which makes you feel like you can bank the car into the apex, but it also kind of means that it's kind of like, you need to make sure that it's positioned well, you're wrapping it around well, you're not underdoing it or overdoing it, you're just riding that perfect mix in between the two. But then it's also a case of like, okay, well, what I need to actually do in the card to make it end up in the right position as well. So when I had a look at this last night and before I went to bed and saw your laps that you done from yesterday, what I saw was you were kind of doing the sort of the same instances. Maybe we looked at it somewhere, a while ago. God, I don't even probably remember where now. Definitely, I don't think it was an Okayama, but maybe it might have been an Okayama where we were kind of releasing the brake like too prematurely almost in a way. Like we were kind of dropping the brake too soon in the corner, thinking that we were ready to rotate, but it wasn't exactly ready to rotate almost in a sense. And that's what I could notice from yesterday. Now, when we look at this one, you can see it's a little bit of the same situation, but I think in this case, the only reason why you're dropping the brake is because you've actually put a lot more initial peak pressure into the car, right? Rather than being at a softer pressure and then carrying it for longer almost in a way. Now, you can see that the line is very, very different between the both of us here. You have a little bit more of a later initial turn in, whereas I have a more aggressive initial turn in, but you also have a lot more shallower of an exit, whereas I have a lot more of a wider exit almost in a way, right? So did you play around a little bit with racing lines through here? Did you play with going tighter, going wider, being more central? What was your thoughts through here?
Yeah, like I did. And this
Yeah,
is
okay.
this is it's funny because this is one of those that I tried a lot to go earlier because I saw your video. I was like, man, like he's going so early because I'm going that
Yeah,
late and I'm still not
yeah,
able to get the car like the way I want. Like
yeah,
sometimes I'm
okay.
still like not able to hit the exit as I want. I'm losing a lot of time. So I try to
Okay.
go early. What's maybe like, and I'll try more. I'll try more.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
what happens to me, like I end up pointing. Maybe I'm going the gas on the wrong moment, but I either end up pointing all the way to the outside, and then the
Okay.
car like dances on the rear, and then I have like
Yeah.
to feather the throttle to get it back like straight, and I lose a lot of time.
Okay.
Or I end up eating the curb on the inside. So
Okay.
I have
Right.
not been successful in using your line and
Okay.
having a decent corner at the same time.
Okay. Sure. Sure. So yeah, it is definitely a really hard one because, like I said, again, you have so many different inputs that are happening all at the exact same time. You've got camber changes, all this sort of stuff like that, and it just kind of can put you off very, very easily. So when you look at mine again in terms of my replay, you obviously be able to see that coming in here, obviously come in, brake, shift down a gear, dive in, and I'm just kind of, holding the brake and trailing as I get into the apex and powering on, and obviously it sort of shoots itself out to the outside almost in a way,
I
right?
I don't know like
Mm.
which version of this car you
Yeah.
have because the car never responds the same way with me. I don't know like
Yeah.
which
No, for sure.
cheat code you're using there. Because I've like if you watch the stream yesterday, I tried this
Hmm.
in someone I think was Craig. Craig was in the stream and he said like we watch you doing these things, the car feels
Yeah.
so composed, and when we try to
Yeah.
do it, it feels like a large dog pulling you like with the leash down the road, and you can barely stand.
Yeah.
And that's how I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely understand. Completely understand that in a way. Now, the biggest sort of thing with this is that, obviously we know that, like we usually have always said, um, like when we come into a corner, obviously we always try to say that when we release the pedal, we kind of want to turn, right? That's always the thing that we're typically, tending to aim for almost in a way, right? And that's really the biggest thing. Now, here, I feel like it's a very kind of unique situation because again, this is a corner that we don't honestly come around too often. Having a corner where you have so much elevation, you have so much camber, and you're coming in at a very rapid speed, we don't experience this at quite well. For all honesty, I think about I don't actually know where else you'd experience a corner like this. Um, yeah, I couldn't even give you an answer to where you might experience this. So it's very, very unique. But what I usually tend to find is that like, obviously we're turning in here, but you can obviously see that I'm still kind of holding the brake. But the thing is that where my actual main rotation point starts, which is right here, that's where I'm kind of releasing the brake, right? So this is kind of like, as we're coming in here, this is the pitch, right? That's the turn, right? So
Gotcha.
maybe in a way, what you're thinking of is that obviously because you're turning in over here, you're potentially thinking of this as the turning point, almost in a way, where in all honesty, this is actually the turning point, almost in a way, and that's where you release the brake. Now, one thing that could be hampering you just a little bit is your downshift, right? Now, you downshift a lot later than me. I brake and downshift pretty instantly. You brake and you downshift a lot later than I do in comparison to myself. So you can see that when you check this out, you shift here, right? I shift here, right? So what I'm doing is I'm really bringing back that downshift early so that I can get a lot of engine braking happening right at the beginning of the corner almost in a way. And you can see that, right? You can see that that happens because look who's going faster in comparison. Obviously, you do brake a little bit later, but you're carrying a lot more momentum into the corner initially, right? And I feel like the timing here is so critical that if you literally have just a split difference of 20 to 30 meters of difference in terms of distance where you're slowing it down more and I'm slowing it down more, that's going to be the difference where, like you said, you feel like my car looks like it's driving well, I've got glue on the tires, whereas you got it in the way where you feel like the dog's pulling you down the street and you feel like it's just trying to let go of you, right? We know in this car that it's very very sensitive to stuff like that. Now, on top of all of that, that makes this a really unique situation in comparison to what we've been dealing with most weeks. We've got a blistering track temperature here this week. It's 43 degrees Celsius is the track temperature around this circuit this week, right? I don't think I've ever been to Ledenon without the track being less than 40 degrees. I don't think I've ever been to it ever at any time of the year where it's ever cold, almost in a way. I mean, by where the surroundings of this circuit it seems like it's in the middle of the bloody desert. There's no surroundings at all. It seems like it's in the middle of some random bush area. So, like the heat is going to kind of extrapolate to this area or this track always, no matter the time of the year, almost in a way. So the problem is that that's going to make everything feel a lot more worse for you. And almost in a way, I don't actually think there's been really any case this season so far where the track has been really over maybe 35 degrees Celsius, to be honest with you. Like every week, we're usually dealing with about a 28, 29 degree track temp, and that's realistically quite decent. But this one, we almost nearly have gone and doubled it. Now we're all the way up at 43, right? So the problem is that you have to be so much more conservative when you're driving on these particular track temps because the car just does not want to listen to what you have to say, almost in a way. It becomes a lot more sensitive to all of your inputs. So I think almost in a way, with that in mind, and as we've learnt over the last couple of months, we know that as it gets hotter, you need to bring things back. As it gets hotter, things need to start happening earlier, right? So that's why, like for example, here you see I've brought things back. I've also brought things down, and I make things just a lot more controlled and a lot more stabilized. Whereas in your instance, you're still going a little bit deeper. You're having to bump on the brake a little bit harder, and it could mean that maybe it might not, but in potential situations, even though you're not really going above 65, because it is a downhill, because there is a lot of camber, because of the way the car's attacking the corner, you could cause yourself little areas of ABS, and you could cause yourself to, potentially, heat up that inside or outside front tire, and cause yourself to not really have the best turning radius that maybe you're wanting to. So my opinion would be, bring it back a little bit, bring the pressure down a little bit, and just try to kind of be a little bit more consistent and holding the brake for a little bit longer. And just think about it, your turning point isn't where you pitch. Your turning point is actually where you go to turn through the apex. And that's sometimes a really important thing to understand. Like I said, not many corners like this that we're dealing with, but kind of a little bit like Okayama that we dealt with a few weeks ago with the kind of hairpin, that we were kind of looking at into turn 5 of the big long back straight. That was kind of like a bit more of a pitch and a drop rather than just like a drop initially, because if you dropped initially, you were going to understeer. Kind of the same case as this. You're going to try to hold the brake in that pitching position and release the brake as obviously you're turning in. But obviously, yeah, that's really the biggest thing. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of braking point, finally, I mean, again, this track has to be one of the hardest tracks for braking points because there's genuinely nothing to look for, almost in a way. It's just about a bit of a guessing game, almost in a way. But I always know that it's just a little bit after the curb usually, and I tend to just get on the brakes. But it's a lot more of a feeling sort of thing, which is a bit frustrating because I hate having to drive on feel sometimes. But this is just one of those circuits where the more experience you have, the more that you feel it. So, what's your thoughts with that? How do you feel with all of that being said?
Yeah, you gave me like a few pointers to try, like as you did like in the previous corner. What I use here, like if you look this white line, there's a kink. That's where I brake,
Yep.
and it's kind of where we're braking as
Okay.
well. So I
Yep.
just have
Yep.
to bring like a little bit before
Yep.
I think like I pass and I brake, and I think we're braking right before it, and then I'll
Yep.
go
Sure.
soft on the brakes and
Yep.
pitch the car, and then as I get close, you see like the kink. Yeah,
Yeah. Right there. Yeah.
I use a lot of the like.
Yep.
There are a lot of kinks on these lines, and those are the ones I
Yep.
use.
Yep. Yep. No. Exactly.
And then
Yep.
like when you
Yep.
get very close, that's when you really use the wheel and the rotation of the car to go around. So I'll try that.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And the
So
early
try to just
downshift.
have them. Yeah, exactly. And just try to hold the brake until you actually rotate in. That's the key because yeah, I saw it today. Obviously, looking at it now, I saw it in your lap that you did yesterday, your best lap from yesterday. I also saw the same thing. You were releasing it a lot earlier than what I was. So I think you're just maybe getting the positioning of where the actual rotation point is. I think you're getting that a little bit wrong of maybe where that is, and that's why you're feeling like either the car gets loose on you, or maybe it feels a little bit unstabilized, or maybe it doesn't rotate as well because you're just releasing the pedal a little bit too soon, right? And that's all you're kind of doing. So just try and keep that in mind. And I think keeping that in mind, that should help you out quite nicely. But yeah, I think a little bit of an interesting corner, and obviously with all that in mind as well, you should be able to open up the corner a little bit more on the exit and feel like you use up a little bit more of the racetrack, which will typically help you out a lot better, right? So yeah, does that make sense to you there, Alan? Any questions with that?
No questions.
Yep, that's all good. Okay, perfect. Now coming into 6 and into the hairpin, this was great, right? That's fantastic. So this is a prime example of doing everything right. The application's right, everything's good, you do it really, really well. So, any really big comments from you into this hairpin here? Did you feel quite comfortable in here? I mean, you look at that and it basically looks like you're doing two laps of my own, almost in a way, when you look at a trace like this. So, yeah, how did you feel through there?
Yeah, this is like the left corner, right?
Yes, correct, left hairpin.
I honestly, I'm surprised on how close we are, because
Cool.
I haven't been able to be like super consistent, and maybe because at some point I set like a very good exit there, and I'm not being able to catch
Okay.
to that again. But I feel like
Okay.
this is a very late turn, right? We go like
Yes, correct. Yes.
and I'm watching here mine. So go late on the turn in, and you
Yeah.
have to go early on the gas because then you're gonna carry a
Correct.
lot of speed. And
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes when I try to do it, I kind of miss
Yeah.
the apex there. And if you go too early, missing
Mhm.
the apex, you go off track. But it's
Yes.
it's
Correct.
just surprising to me how close we are because I have been able to do this consistently, but I never felt good about it. Maybe I should feel
Okay.
good about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, 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 no. I mean, look, if you at the end of the day, if you're able to do it in this way, and again, like you said, you're correct in saying that it is a late apex. Um, so if you're feeling consistent and being able to do that, then you're golden almost in a way. You're doing exactly what you need to do. So, I mean, look, I mean, realistically, the only like thing that I feel like could happen at this corner usually that I've experienced, I suppose, is just feeling like either two things: either you go too deep, so you miss the corner, and
Mm-hmm.
then obviously you don't get down to the apex. You still get the exit, but you don't really get to the apex, so you lose a little bit of time, or you overslow it and you feel like you turn in too early and you feel like you get too much on the apex, and then you feel like it you over rotate almost in your own sense, right? Those are the only two issues that really I've ever run into at this corner. I feel like this car is mm, super tame almost in a way through a corner like this. There's not really that much going on. The one thing that I will say that we are doing differently is gear choice. So I did test out both fourth gear and just staying in third gear. Um, Obviously, the one thing you got to remember with that fourth gear is that, of course, by going fourth to third, you're going to be enhancing, um, obviously, that sort of engine braking almost in a way, right? So you're going to be getting a little bit more engine braking by having that gear shift, whereas keeping in third, you obviously, you're not using any engine braking. You're just genuinely using the braking performance from the pedal, and that's it. So yeah, if that makes a big difference or not, I'm sure not really. I guess the fourth to third just gives you maybe a little bit more slowing down performance, but I suppose the only thing that could do almost in a way is it could mean that potentially in whatever way you look at it, it could maybe slow the car down a little bit more, and it could also mean that it potentially could pitch the car into the apex maybe a little bit too early, or maybe a little bit sooner than maybe what mine is, for example, meaning that maybe there's a little bit more hesitation on the throttle, whatever it might be, right? But in whatever way you're doing it right here, it looks like you're doing quite well. Um, so yeah, in all honesty, I feel like you're doing everything in the right manner, and it seems like you're doing everything quite nicely. So yeah, seems like maybe it should be a corner that you may be a little bit more confident about, because it seems like it's doing quite good. But we always know this, right? I mean, even 13 and 14, you said you were struggling with, and you were actually faster than me through 13 and 14, right? So sometimes it's the corners that you don't think are very good are the ones that are the best, and then it's the ones that maybe you feel more comfortable about that are always the ones that need work on. It's always the way. But yeah, I mean, look, if you feel confident in doing it in the way you are, doing it in that sense, then yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, I've got no real comments about that, so that's all fine. So no worries there. Um, 8 and 9. So this section is very interesting in this car, because especially this turn 9 going up the hill, um, it feels like a shitbox going up there in this car. But I feel like everything in this corner feels crap, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Like I don't actually know of a car that feels good going going up this corner. But the first right hander, obviously, I think I tried like not hitting the curb and hitting the curb. I found that hitting the curb helped it out ultimately a lot more. The trace there, absolutely sublime, absolutely perfect realistically in a way. Um, the only difference is that, it seems like maybe your on throttle started maybe, well, realistically your on throttle started at the right point, but obviously it's a little bit of a unique type of corner, and you can see that I actually started the throttle really really early. So I pick up the throttle quite aggressively, to be honest with you, coming into there. So you can see for me in my instance here, I'm on the throttle here,
Yep.
right? Whereas you're probably on the throttle probably around there, almost in a way, right? So it's typically not the ideal way of going about it. Of course, we always say that we're trying to pick up the power right at the end of the braking zone, but I pick it up a little bit earlier, almost in a way. So maybe just try to pick it up a little bit earlier, because at the end of the day, the more quicker you can get back to 100% here, the more momentum you're going to be able to carry, right? So, you're doing everything perfectly there. It's just genuinely a case of, I just go maybe a little bit away from what we usually do, just to maybe get a little bit more out of it. Does it make a big difference? No, not really. Does it make a difference? Yeah, for sure. Because you can see that, yeah, you can see there by just me picking it up a lot earlier. Look at the extra speed that I'm able to carry through the apex. Does it really matter too much in the end of the day? No, not really. We match up there or thereabouts by the time we get to the next braking zone. So it's just that little bit of a extra boost that I kind of get through that apex, and that's all I really tend to get out of it more so than anything. But yeah. Other than that, keep that one in mind. But turn 9. So this one here reminds me of this one here almost in a way, right? So you can see the way that you're kind of trailing off very early is the exact same thing that you're doing here. So we're kind of releasing a lot earlier than what we kind of need. Once again, think about the way that we're doing this corner. We have a pitch, right? We have a rotation point, right? The pitch, you're lifting. The rotation, I'm lifting, right? So once again, I think in a corner like in these ones that are a lot more realistic, I think the one thing that we got to just try and think about is like where your pitching point almost is and where your rotation point actually is as well, because it's very sometimes hard to decipher where and what you're trying to do in terms of rotation, in terms of where you're releasing the brake, in terms of all the little things like that. That's what we're trying to really look out for, right? So do you feel like, in these corners, like, your T5s in here, T9, are you feeling like maybe listening to all of this now, we're maybe just getting the point of where we feel like the car's actually rotating maybe a little bit incorrect? Would that maybe be fair to say in a way? Or
Yeah, I don't know, because like I have to try this with this mindset because for me, like
okay,
I'm struggling to go around these corners, and
okay, sure, yeah,
maybe because I'm approaching as like a one turn in, and you're
yeah,
approaching as
yeah,
like let's get the direction right and then we turn in. So I have to try with that
yes,
mindset because when I just try the
yeah,
line with the wrong mindset, it's just
yeah,
garbage. And
yeah,
this is
yeah,
a
for
very
sure,
tough
yeah,
corner. Like this is a very tough one as well.
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Because the way that I basically see it is that we know that whenever we release the brake, right, whenever we go to trail, it's going to usually cause some sort of rotation, right? That's usually our purpose behind it. It causes you to open up the sort of the lock of the car, opens up the weight, and it just allows it to kind of rotate and pitch on the rear a little bit more. But the problem is that when we're doing it, you're doing it at kind of the wrong spot. So where the car's trying to get rotation, it's too early in the piece. So when you actually get to the point where you want it to rotate, you've already done the effect that's meant to make it rotate in that spot. You've already done that. You've already done it too early almost in a way. So the problem is that when you actually go to pitch it and turn into the corner, like we've always said, instead of feeling like you're turning into the corners, you feel instead of feeling like you're guiding yourself into the corners, you feel like you're turning into the corners, right? So that's why there's things like maybe understeer, or maybe the car overturns, or you end up too shallow on exits or anything like that. It's just because you're feeling like you're having to do the effort to get the turn rather than just getting the car to do a lot of that effort that usually you're mainly used to at tracks like Alton, or all of these other tracks like Lime Rock that we've been to as well. The car does a lot of the work for you. And that's one sort of big thing to maybe keep in mind that could be potentially affecting what's sort of happening, and the effect that you're getting out of all the sort of stuff like that. So um yeah, that's really the sort of biggest sort of thing, almost almost in your way, and that's all it really comes down to. So yeah, other than that, look, I think that's really the biggest thing. And again, when you do look at this and you see stuff like that and you relate it up to what you're doing, right, you can see, like I said, what happens. You have to feel like you drive the car into the corner more. You have to turn more to get the reaction, whereas I'm just using the rear like normal, and then I bite and I turn. But the problem is that you start that point all the way back here, because that release is meant to be here, but you've made the release happen here, and we're not even actually turning yet, right? So try and do it with a little bit of a different mindset. Try and approach it slightly differently, and see if that can help you out. Because yeah, realistically, those two things should hopefully give you a little bit of an answer to what's happening at both of those hairpins, and that's really the biggest thing. So yeah, does that make sense?
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
Alan, is that yeah?
Like
Okay,
on
perfect.
this one, is there like an early
Yeah, this one's
downshift to use the engine braking as well, or like no?
In turn 9, you're talking about there,
The,
or
yeah, the one we just
into this
reviewed.
one here?
Yes. No, no, the eight
Yeah,
nine.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 8, 9. So yeah, typically, yeah. So you can see I'm shifting down quite early, where once again you're shifting down a lot later. So I shift down here, right? You shift down there. So I'm doing it at the beginning of the braking zone. You're doing it in the middle of the braking zone, right?
Okay.
So try and like, if you are going down your gears, just try and get down your gears very early at a track like this. Don't try and let the gear linger here because it it doesn't slow you down, as well, the kind of gears as efficiently. You got to do things very, very early around here because otherwise, yeah, it just everything just comes up at you too quickly. The corner comes to you too quickly, and by the time you do something, it doesn't allow you enough time um, to yeah, get yourself in the position and whatever you need. So I just basically feel like whenever I get to peak pressure on the brake, I'm going down a gear. That's pretty much how I always tend to look at it at a circuit like this, for example. So, um, yeah, just something to think about. But yeah, look, try that out, see what you think, and I think hopefully, that should help you out a little bit typically, and that'll give you a little bit more of a result of what you're looking for. Now, this section sucks. 10 and 11 is absolutely terrible. It's probably one of my most hated sections on iRacing, to be honest with you. Like, it just feels like I can never, I can never understand what I'm looking for here in terms of where I kind of want to be. Now, um, do you feel like you're having a hard point with getting through this left-hander here almost in a way? Do you feel like you kind of have a bit of a marker of where the curb is, or do you feel like you're still kind of just like guessing where it is almost in a way?
I'm still guessing. I know, like
Okay.
if I am at a crest, it's too late. So I try to
Okay.
turn in
Yeah.
like somewhere before that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So I have two markers here that you can look out for when you're trying to find your turn in basically here in a way, right? So as I crest the hill, you'll see two things come up. So first of all, you see that, right? So you see that pole that will pop up there, but you also will see that tree, right? So that tree, basically when you get to that point here, that tree is in line with the curb, right? That pole is in line with pretty much nearly where you turn in, almost in a way, right? What I typically like to use is I initially like to use the pole just to know that, okay, turning point's coming up, but I like to use the tree to say, well, that's where I'm trying to turn to, right? So as I'm coming up here, I know that that tree is going to be in line with that curb right there. So that pole is going to be, okay, when I basically get in line with that pole almost in a way, that's where I can start to turn in. Literally, as I see the pole, I start to turn in, right? But I know that I got to turn in enough that my windscreen is in line with this tree almost in a way. That's where the curb's going to be, right? So as you get to the curb, you see that tree is dead in line with the curb, right? So I try to use those two things as I'm coming up the hill. I use those markers. So I come up, see the pole, okay, turn, tree in the middle, bam, on the curb. That's what I'm
Okay.
looking for, right? Those are my two markers. Yeah. Um, Otherwise, you're just forever guessing going through there, and the amount of times that whenever I was guessing, you end up either too much, or you end up over here, or you even end up out there, and it's
So
hard to get something consistent.
yeah, when we're behind someone, how do you like? Do you have any
Yeah.
auto reference or just watch the break?
Um.
Because here's a lift. It's not like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look. When you're behind someone else, you just let them be the
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 guys.
bearer of yeah, the kind of guide almost in a way. I mean, at the end of the day, in this car, it's very hard to make a move coming into this corner anyway. There's just too much understeer. There's too much dirty air. It's very hard to be able to bomb it in. So even if you cost yourself half a tenth or a tenth going through the entry there, just because you may be a little bit more lenient than the guy ahead of you or whatever it might be, I'm not against it at all. Because again, it's going to be hard to set up a move coming to there, and if you do set up a move, then you're probably going to crash into someone because you're probably going to ABS and go straight to the side of them, by then feeling like you got no grip on the inside almost in a way. So yeah, no, it's just one to be careful of. But yeah, it's hard when you're up behind someone for sure. But again, you kind of just use the guy ahead of you as, like you said, a bit of the guide, to be honest with you, because there's no real other points of reference to kind of aim for, to be honest with you. But in saying that as well, like, as you do obviously crest, and yeah, you do have a car ahead of you. Yeah, I mean, typically, like you said, it kind of is going to block out that pole there every single time if you've got a car right here. But you should be able to see that tree a little bit almost in a way still, because if you actually do think about it, if you've got a car here, you'll still be able to see that, right? That tree's still going to be visible for you because that car isn't going to be, all the way over here. You can still probably see it. You won't be able to see that, but you'll be able to see that. So you can always know that that's going to be in line with where the curve is almost in a way. So you can kind of use that as a bit of a thing. But like you said, a little bit more of just a guide. I think of the car ahead will probably be a bit of a better idea. Now, obviously, yeah, coming through the left, you can see that I do use a little bit of brake for a split moment. Um, I do obviously understand the lift through here. It does sort of make sense a little bit at times, but again, the problem is that with that lift, it just causes you to maybe use just a little bit too much steering angle in comparison to what you need. So you can see, like as you are coming through the left, see how you have to crank in a lot more steering if you just watch the steering here.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you just keep on winding. It's like we know, right? When we're rolling, what does it usually cause us to happen or cause us to have? Understeer, right? So I think almost in a way you're just causing yourself understeer by just lifting, whereas I'm just sort of slowly lifting back, then braking a bit, back on the power, and then obviously braking and squeezing into the brake as I'm coming into the left-hander. Whereas obviously we're lifting, rolling, power, a little bit, a little bit of sort of brake through there, but you have this really, really big lift right there, right? So instead of having a really big lift, just try and have a little bit of a slower release
Okay.
of the throttle, almost in a way. Because do you definitely feel like you're just lifting off, almost in a sense?
Yeah, but I think I'm thinking about it right now. Like you have a reference in front of you, if it's the tree, that I don't. So like I'm guessing where I am, and that's why like I
Yeah,
lift because I don't know if I'm gonna hit it or not. But now with the
yeah,
tree, I think it's easier to like lift, and I'll see if the
yeah,
car is under steering before I can see the curb.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. So yeah, just try and be, yeah, maybe a little bit more progressive with the throttle release and see if that can help you out a little bit there. And then otherwise, that's just going to really change the timing of everything. Very similarly to what we were doing at turn one, right? You see that you get on really aggressively, brake really
Yeah.
aggressively. Is literally the exact same as this, right? You're literally doing the exact same thing. So, if you can just carry more momentum in, you have to react less. If you carry less momentum in, you have to react more, which is exactly what you're doing there. And then, of course, because of that, it makes you obviously get on the power a lot more aggressively. Then you get on the full throttle and you're like, yeah, mint. And then you get out really wide and you're like, oh, damn, I'm going to bloody, understeer off the track. So then you crack the throttle. So, it's just about being very mindful of the way that the car is exiting out of the corner. And typically if you can do that, then that should, hopefully help us out, quite nicely in that sense, and that should be feeling quite good for you in a way, right? So, yeah, look, other than that, man, I think all really good. I think you got the right idea. I think it's just more so trying to have that point going up through the left, and then obviously coming into the second left, just trying to be a little bit more progressive with what you're trying to do. But I think typically, it's always knock on an effect. It's kind of like whatever you do through the first part, it always is going to counter into the second part. So, it's just always something to think about in that manner. But otherwise, all really, really good. So, yeah, no complaints there. So does that help you out a bit? Did you have a big problem through turn 11? Any sort of main concerns through turn 11 that you want to discuss? Obviously, you can see the line is a little bit different, but any kind of main areas, or do you feel like it's a lot of what happens through 10 and the exit of 10 that causes you to do the line
Yeah.
in the way that you do?
It's the latter. Yeah. Like I'm looking at line,
Yeah,
and I've tried a couple of different lines. This was the one I was able to be more consistent with. But
yeah,
then I'm always like being squeezed against the off track, like on the right side.
yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
and I honestly like I didn't have to lift here because I can use more of
Okay,
the track on the left side on the exit.
you can.
Um,
Yes, you can.
but
Yes.
for some reason, like on this one, maybe I was kind of like, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. For some reason, I did on this
yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay, sure. So yeah, again, just look, something to watch out for, something to keep in mind about, and really, that's the biggest thing. So that's all fine. Um, and now, yeah, finally coming into the final corner whenever it wants to load. There we go. It always gets me, man. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like you've just done this more efficiently, almost in a way. However, the only thing that I will say that you can see here is pressure, right? You went all the way up to 79 to get the braking zone done here. So The problem is that, as we know so well, um, you probably found that, it worked, it did work, but it's probably just more so the case of it worked, but how would it work in a race? It goes back to the first lesson that we ever had together, that, obviously our marker or our percentage wants to be 65%. Now, the biggest thing is that, in this instance, you'll never know whether you got into the ABS or you didn't get into the ABS. It's not to say that you did get into the ABS. You might have not got into the ABS. You would have at some stage, a little bit, but it's just more so the case of the amount that you did compared to what you gained. It's probably not really worth it, almost in a way. So you can see that you only gained 0.01, which typically, yeah, it's faster here, right? You did go faster, but you then lose half a tenth coming down the straight. So the big thing to note is that you do the structural really, 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 really well. You have the idea. I think it's just more so the case of the way that maybe you're applying it. It's giving you time, but it's that time when you do that 6 laps into the race and you try to do the same thing, and then the car doesn't stop and you go into the sand on the exit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're sort of looking for. So did you find yourself braking a lot harder into here than usually what you're normally used to?
Yeah. Like this is a downhill with like a sharp
Yeah,
left that's uphill.
yeah,
That's the one I said. Like I think here, just close my eyes, hit the brakes, and hope it's gonna go right.
yeah. Okay.
And funny enough, like it was faster. But like the problem here, if you look, it's truly on the exit, because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
struggle a lot on the exit on this one. So maybe like bringing in the braking
Sure.
point like earlier is gonna help with like getting, because you carry more speed around the corner if you look.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Oh, exactly.
which means like I'm just slowing down the car too
Yeah,
late, and that's why I'm like
yeah,
overreacting.
yeah, yeah. No, exactly. You're faster in and slower out. I'm slower in and faster out. Right. That's all it really is. It just comes back down to the same topic that we talked about, right at the beginning of our journey together. You can just see I'm braking all the way back here, whereas you're braking probably somewhere
Yeah.
maybe around here. That's kind of where you're braking, almost in comparison to me, right? So you can see them coming in, coming in, coming in, squeeze maybe a little bit at the end, trail off, and then power on the exit, and off I kind of go. So yeah, I think this is typically just one of our usuals. Just bring the braking zone back, bring the pressure down, and just allow yourself to be a lot more consistent and just going back to the basics with everything that we know, right? Because I mean, you might have not been, like you said, you kind of just maybe close your eyes and hope for the best through here. But in all honesty, it's more so a case of if we were to really sit here and focus on what the ABS is doing, it would probably be flickering through the roof in the way that you would be doing this, right? And you're just going to be cooking your tires, especially with knowing that we both have a. Does it show here? Yeah, we both have a 42.78 degree track temp in comparison, right? So, the biggest thing is that, that's not going to be causing you any beneficiaries. It's only going to be causing you, you know, time loss almost in a way, and that's really going to be that biggest sort of thing. So, um, yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, bro, I think a lot of interesting topics today. I think, a little bit of refinement on everything that we do know already up until this point, but I think a lot of refinement in the areas that maybe we had correct, or we do have corrected at all the tracks. It's just more so, again, this track at Ledenon is so unique, and it just does provide a lot of really, really rare situations that you're not going to find everywhere. But in one way or another, they're going to help you understand other tracks maybe a little bit better in terms of, like we talked about, maybe having a little bit more of pitch and then rotate where those angles are, what those pointers are, remembering the basics that we know very well, keeping the pressures, within the right area and not overdoing it, anything like that, and all the main sort of areas. That's the biggest thing. So, yeah, bro. Look, I'm really happy. I mean, look, it's not maybe that time that you want to be at right now, but I think again you can kind of see, and I can see where it kind of is. I think it's just a lot of the little basic sort of adjustment sort of stuff, and just sort of making sure that we're not overdoing it almost in a way, and just sort of being like, okay, well, the environment we're dealing with here is a lot more hotter than what we're usually used to at this point. Obviously consistently, we've never really been, like I said at the start, we haven't really been in a condition that is this hot in a while, or if ever, to be honest with you. So, obviously it's a bit of a unique one to deal with, but yeah, you know, you've just got to feel like everything is brought back, everything's a little bit more cautious, everything's a little bit more not tentative, but everything's a little bit more sort of controlled. I think is probably the best way to put it. So, yeah. Any questions from your end on
Mm,
anything there, brother? Anything to ask or concern, or does that make a bit of sense for you what to work on there for this
no,
week?
it makes a lot of sense. Like it's a lot, so try to tackle like one thing at a time, and hope like
Sure.
throughout the
Yeah.
week I can use those as like lessons learned and improve my lap time during the
Yeah.
week. But
Yeah.
I always come to the sessions like sometimes not always, but like sometimes I come to the session like I see the telemetry and I see like I'm
Yeah.
screwing it up, like it's different, but I'm not quite
Okay.
sure how to bridge the gap. And I think like
Yeah.
our
Sure.
sessions they help a lot, like with the how you're breaking down the corner in your mind, which is different from what I'm
Yeah.
doing, or like why
Yeah.
you're approaching the way you are, like downshifting a gear like earlier. Things that I don't really
Yeah.
notice when I'm analyzing. I'm just looking at the lines, and I think
Sure. Yeah.
just like changing those behaviors naturally, the time's gonna
Yeah.
come. If not like this week on this track, like in future
Yeah.
tracks, future weeks, like the behavior's gonna add up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And look, I think that's definitely an important part of everything that you do, or even for me, what I do. I mean, obviously, the fact of the matter is, as we progress forward, in the near future, to obviously going to tracks that are more bigger scale and a lot more broader corners and bigger track and just a lot more stuff to be thinking about and a lot more combination corners almost in a way to be dealing with. It kind of really makes you kind of open up your thought process a lot more of what you're trying to do, why you're doing it. If you can always kind of go into a corner and say what's your why and what's your how, that's kind of the answer that you always kind of need. You just need a kind of answer to everything that you're doing. And if you can give a good answer as to, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, then you're like, okay, well, is that the answer that I'm looking for? If that's the answer that you're looking for and the answer is no, then the thing is like, well, okay, well, what do I need to do to make that answer yes? And that's obviously what we sit here and talk about today. The reason why this isn't working is because you're dropping the brake too early. But what's the result that you're getting from when you're dropping the brake too early? The car probably rotates too soon, but then it means that it's rotated too soon, but not at the right point. So you have to put in more artificial input to make it turn. Whereas for me, I'm dropping the brake later because I'm actually doing it where the car is turning and it's rotating like it usually does. So it's just about understanding the hows and the whys and really just sort of breaking it down a little bit like that. It's a nice process to get your mind into, but again, when there's kind of trucks like this that are quite tough, it can always be quite hard to, I suppose, break it down in that way because it can become quite, quite in-depth information to understand. But again, that's just what we're learning and what we're building towards. Again, the core fundamentals are all where they need to be. So hopefully a lot of those changes this week should gain you a fair bit of time back. But yeah, look, see how you go. Let me know how you get on with all of it, and yeah, if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. But yeah, I think honestly you have a pretty good week here at Lebanon. Once you find the groove and once you feel comfy, you're gonna feel pretty decent through this track. So I'm looking forward to see. Yeah, looking forward to see how you go.
Yeah, me too. I also like I'm gonna also spend a lot of hours offline, just trying to get
Yep,
more comfortable with the
sure.
line.
Yep,
And yeah,
yep,
thanks, sir. Really
yep,
appreciate it.
sure.
Very good session
You're
today.
welcome, Alan. You're welcome. No worries. And I'll see you next week. So yeah, have a good week. Good luck with your racing, and I'll see you next time.
See you, man. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Alan. Good night, bro. Bye. Bye.
All right. So, a few things right. I think we're not that far from where we wanna be. Just a few changes in behavior. So the number one thing is like around this corner, we're gonna be more central, and then as you come here, we're gonna go on the gas, so the car's gonna get this line, and once we hit this, like it's supposedly the car will turn in. So maybe I didn't. Coming down here, braking earlier, downshifting, and pitching. I didn't pitch, and like here is when we release, and there's a kink. The kink passed, like a miracle here that we're doing this like somewhat decently, because I feel like we're super slow. Then down here, I'm gonna lift now because I don't wanna push too much. But he's going like here. Oh, damn. And here's the same thing as like we talked before. that I reacted late. Oh, it didn't count as an off track. Huh. If it's not an off track, it's not an off track. Still on track. Let me have a better portion here. So look for the pole, look for the tree. Okay, okay. Off track, okay. Then I think he goes deeper here and turns in here, goes on the gas. And then it's just like a better... maybe not off track. I have no idea how that was not an off track. And then sand, okay. You see? You see? It's everything in here now. I have to make sure it's coming to the legs and the hands. That's kind of the challenge. So let's go. Okay, early on the gas maybe, but that's the line we're looking for. Definitely overslow down here, but we're chasing the line. Right now, not chasing the pace, just chasing the line. On this kink I hit the brakes, and then I turn in as late as possible. Then I go on the gas as early as I feel comfortable. And here he also pitches before, like he goes on the gas much earlier than I do, because he's pitching the car and turning in. So let's remember that. Oh, I missed the corner, I missed the corner. Like whenever I go to 100% on the gas, it's because we over slow down. Close, let us closer.
You've just set your fastest lap of the session.
Commit. Off track. The car was bouncy there. So here depends a lot on your FOV as well, but I'm using my bar, like this bar on the left side. I almost remember to pitch this time. Does anyone else feels like a car's gonna come behind us and just destroy us there? Let's put
That was your fastest lap of the session.
so whenever I go to 100, remember you screwed it up. Oh, I don't have like an active reset. Don't crash, please don't crash. Crash. Alright, so our like off-track lap, which was garbage, was already at 31.8. Which means this track, these conditions, you can probably be like 31 lows consistently. Because remember like how many things went wrong on that lap? So here's a third and then go on the gas. Went too much on the gas. It's just like 40%. Yeah, let's worry about, like, let's remove this. Let's worry about the line right now. Pace will follow. So you see, like, as the curb disappears on my left side, I turn in, but there was a long, late. Apex there. Gotta be earlier here. Yeah, definitely.
You cut the cord, you've got to slow down and give up that time.
Alright, everything went wrong here. Which means we're just like too fast for someone who is looking for the line, right? Car's almost parking. Cool. Let's get our active reset. It's garbage, but let's get it. Yeah, I cut it off. Off track. So let's start the first cone here. I have to put it.
You cut the cord, you've got to slow down and give up that time.
Oh, okay. Okay to crash. No, not today. Not racing today. Tonight's like practice time. Tomorrow we do Formula. Tomorrow's Formula night. Thursdays are the days we try to get any better. He goes earlier on the gas there. I didn't miss the apex by a lot there.
You've just set your fastest lap of the session.
Okay. Too narrow. This is what we're looking for. The problem of going too narrow is like we don't get this exit right.
You cut that corner and got a slow down penalty.
This is good, this is good. Oh, early on the... Gotta remember to go early on the downshift. Oh, off track. If it's an off track, let's just like push on everything else, right? Oh, the last was also an off track. Okay, so let's try with this so we can see whenever we have an off track. Too much. Yeah, I know I overdid it whenever I'm pointing to the inside of the corner. Super late, super late, super late. So let's keep going. Another off track. I can't like have this false. I cannot have this false like gas on the over that curve. Ah, too much rotation. No, right? We kind of saw it coming. No surprises there. It's the same thing as the other one. If you over slow down and release, so here's a I over slowed down, I know, because I was super hard on the gas and I still went off track. I mean, I still, like, you see how little I went and went off track. That was just the right amount of speed I was carrying there. Just a touch. Just a touch. You see, like, I pitched, and then I didn't do anything right. Garbage, right? Doesn't take a genius. Doesn't take a genius to see what's bad. Absolutely bad. At least this one we're feeling more confident now. Off track. The car is trying to speed. I have to learn how to save this because this might happen in a race. No, I pitched too much, so a little bit less. We should actually try like a full lap just for the sake of having finally a full lap for our audience. So let's try a non-off-track full lap here. And of course this wasn't good, but at least no off track so far. My phone just jumped off my rig. They're 1.6. Couple more. 5 more. Let's go. 5 more. Oh, there's an off track. Four more. Let's go. 4 more laps. I went super late because the car didn't have the rotation I wanted. So I had to do the job manually. He just goes so much earlier than I do, like on the gas there. But whenever I do, I just go off track.
That was your fastest lap of the session.
Yeah, I need to do this better. Maybe like next time I'm gonna focus on that, not on the first few corners on that. I'm off track, hey. I didn't need to go off track there.
You cut the course,
I
you
did.
gotta slow down and give up that time.
Focus on this one, brake early, downshift early, release, turn in. I feel like that was too early on our release. Stay committed for just a little bit more.
Craig Walter said, "It's so hard to do it all right on the same lap."
You know what's easy though? To make everything wrong in the same lap. So we can compromise. But it is. It's such a tricky, like...
Slow down. You got a penalty? We're cutting the course.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Let's try this lap. Too early. So here's what I've learned, like slight brake first cone, ignore the first apex, ignore the second apex, here we go on the gas, Release, brake again, let it hit here. And just commit 100% once we're pointing in. Brake, downshift. Felt decent. Felt decent. Brake right after the kink, turn in as the curve disappears. Go on the gas as early as you can. Keep the car in. Brake for the patch, go on the gas, and hope the car stays. Brake. No, the car didn't stay, the car didn't stay. Okay. That's what happens when I go as early as he does on the brakes. Or on the gas. Nope. And he's like 20% on the brakes too, like it's not a lot.
Craig Walder said. His brake and gas overlapped at that turn.
Oh man. Which turn? The one that I just flew? For a second I thought this was like Flight Simulator.
Craig Walder said. The one you beached at.
Okay. And I'm trying to do that same thing. Like this thing of... Oh yeah. Just pitch, then you turn. Buddy, easier said than done. Brake, pitch, let the car straight, release, turn, gas. You see how much time I wasted, like what the car happened, like it's easy. Anybody with ears can hear about calculus, but go figure how to do the math there. Very different. Okay, so let's do the following. Let's get rid of this. 2 flying laps, 2 consecutive flying laps. Our money, our careers, future generations of our families, all depending on these 2 hot laps. Was a super late turn. I don't know if you realized that. But tree, where is the tree? Late apex, late apex, late here. Gas. Early on the brakes and early on the gas. Okay, now one more flying lap.
You've just set your fastest lap of the session.
Good. Yeah, the delta is not looking good, but doesn't matter. You're feeling good. You're feeling like a hero. So just keep going. Do I need to tell you it was garbage? No, right? Now, because we're so behind, we're gonna go Gianni style and let's control the dog downhill on the leash. Let's just go crazy. See the tree? Go to the tree. Brake, downshift, gas, brake again. Late, 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 late. No, no spinning. And we fly here. And here we can go early. Early. It's okay, it's okay. Nobody's gonna crash behind us. Ay, ay. Just one more. Mom, just one more, Mom. Mommy, come on. Okay, go. Bring me outside curb. Oh,
You
off
cut
track.
that corner and got a slow down penalty.
Alright, so that's gonna be it for today. So, relationship advice. If you have a girlfriend and you wanna break up and you don't know how to break up with her, just tell her, hey hun, I love you, but for this relationship to survive, you need to put a fast lap in Ledenon. Or like, go there, one lap without spinning. I'll give you 1500 laps. All I have to do is one lap without spinning, without crashing. And she's gonna be the one breaking up. She's gonna come here like, oh, that's easy. Like, must be an oval or something. And she's gonna see this garbage, like, yo, okay, this is serious. And then she's gonna fail. And she's gonna say, hey hun, I tried very hard, but you're now a single guy. And you can say like, yo, I'm so sorry, like I really, really loved you. I really wish we're together forever, but yeah, it's not on me, it's on you. You couldn't do it. The easiest track on the entire season, you couldn't do it, so.
Pit box in 10, 5,
Warming up the tires.
3,
Just see if
2,
we can
1.
burn
Right here.
someone's hands here. So I just want to take a look at our last fastest lap, which was not our fastest lap, but I want to compare what we're doing now to what Gianni's doing. I think that's smart, right? So a lot of people think I'm just a pretty face, and I'm not just a pretty face. I'm much more than just a pretty face. Analyze. Brum, Gianni. Alright, so we're closer in some of the behaviors, still like over braking here. Which corner is this? This is the fast left-hander. Okay, so this is the one that he barely lifts. And because I overbrake, I overgo the gas. He hits like 10% maybe here, 3%. So it's really like a gentle touch, nothing else, carrying way more speed. But if you look now, the first 1,000 meters, we're losing 2/10. Then the next 1,000 meters, we're losing half a second. And then in the final, we're losing another half second. So that's 1.2 from our fastest lap now. But I think we're doing well all the way until like 1500. That's like 3/10. It's half of the track. We're just losing 3/10, and that goes around corners 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or jeez. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's like 4, 5, and then 6 and 7. So all the way downhill, like when we're going downhill, that's half of the track. We're merely 3/10 away from him. It's like 45 seconds here, so it's really like half of the track. And then we lose a lot coming uphill here. So all the way to this braking zone, we didn't lose as much. He still goes on the gas like earlier than we do. But yeah, like, and on the exit, like on the entry, we're just like 3.5 tenths. Maybe before the braking marker. Let's see, right before, like 0.36. It's good. It's half a track. We just lost some on the entry because he goes like on the gas super aggressively here. Fine, we can live with that, but then lose a lot of time. And it's on the uphill, like from the entry of the uphill. Where's the brake? Here. So 36 from the entry of the uphill all the way to when he lifts on the next one, it's like 3/10. So 3/10 on this corner here alone. Gotta improve that. And then on this left-hander here, what is this? Okay, all the way to the throttle. So from here, on that corner is another 10th. And then on this, on the exit here to the braking zone. And it's true, like another 4/10 on the last corner. That's insane. That's insane. Or like 0.35 maybe, 0.35. Alright, I'll practice more offline. Web service, what is this? Okay, WS. Get your stuff together. I never got to use the demo driving this week. Maybe I was too late. Anyways, I think we have something to work on, right? Tomorrow we're gonna be back here to race Virginia on the F4s. What time is it? At the 15th of the hour, so every hour the 15th, so 10:15 is the first one. I'm gonna be here about 10 p.m. Maybe like a couple laps, maybe a little bit earlier. Couple laps there, and then race twice. And yeah, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be it. And then on Saturday, we're back to sports car, to MX5, and you know what? We have some time here, so let's just. What do you think? What do you think? Some people dropped. Some people stayed. If you stayed, you're gonna see couple laps Laguna Seca, because I absolutely love Laguna Seca. They took Laguna Seca from the free package. Laguna Seca used to be one of the tracks in the main thing.
Craig Walder said, so GT4 next season.
GT4 Porsche, it is decided. We talked, we discussed, we like, oh, I see this guy racing the M2s a lot. We had a good convo, like I was telling him, like, hey, here are all the options we have, and what's the best option for us, for like our process. And we landed at the Porsche GT4.
Craig Walder said, any reasoning for the Porsche?
The Porsche is the equivalent of the M2. Of all the cars, is your worst enemy. I don't think the Porsche is as bad like cornering, and we should see this now. But from all the cars, or not all the cars, but from the cars that people drive the most, people say it's the most challenging because it's the least forgiving car. So mastering anything you do wrong with the Porsche, it's gonna show fast, and you can work on that rather than like cover. I think the BMW and the do we have a BMW on this one? I think we do. So I think the BMW and the I want to say Aston Martin are the ones that are more forgiving on the GT4s. You know what's one of my favorite things to do in Laguna Seca? It's gonna sound silly, but it is one of my favorite things to do. It's hitting this corner or this cone. I love hitting the cone. I need some more force from back here. Oops. Alright, the car's not turning. You see? But I still need more force feedback here, so let's go. Alright. We're pushing too soon. Too soon. The famous corkscrew. I think they redid the track, by the way. It looks different from like a year ago when I raced here. Okay, let's try a few good laps. Let me see if I remember my braking markers on the other cars.
Craig Walter said, I was thinking maybe GT3 next season, but maybe he'll follow you and go GT4.
Yeah, like I think for me, like the biggest problem with the GT3 is they're very competitive, and from what I heard and from what we discussed, it kind of hides some of our mistakes as well because the car is so powerful, and you're just gonna like be doing something wrong well, and that's likely gonna prevent you from improving as you should. That's why I'm going for the GT4. Yeah, this is not a Mazda, so I should like be braking differently for sure. So maybe slightly earlier on the brakes. Alright, got this one right. Okay. Gonna brake early. Uh-oh, not early enough, not early enough, not early enough. And I was thinking about like one season of the GT4
You cut the course, you've got to slow down
and then
give up that
GT3,
time.
but Ledenon has been humbling in that sense. So maybe it's gonna be 2 seasons on GT4s. Sure, I guess. Okay, this is definitely not a Mazda. Like, definitely not a Mazda. And we are hitting the ABS like crazy.
Car stops on the right.
Good for him.
Left side, clear on the left. We got damage on the front end. Left
Of
side,
course, right?
clear. We got damage on the front end. Reduced aero might slow you down on the straight.
Let's get a new car. Because in this game we're rich and we can have a new car anytime we want. Okay, this is annoying. Let's see the cone. Don't forget, always touch the cone. Same guy, same guy.
Left side,
What could possibly
Clear
go
on
wrong
the
here
left.
with him? Yeah. It's funny, like how. Yeah, favorite track for sure.
Court Easy said, "This is my favorite map." Court Easy said, "I like falling off the corkscrew."
Yeah, I only wonder like how that feels in real life. Should feel like a roller coaster.
Court Easy said, "They had the real life Mustang challenge here last week on YouTube."
Yeah. It was like the IMSA weekend. I was gonna watch it, I forgot to watch it. I was like, there was Formula 1, there was too much going on. But... Brake, please brake.
You got a
brake.
slow car on the left.
Okay. Actually, it was not as garbage as it looks like.
You got a slow car on the right.
This is a fast left-hander. What did I do there? I don't know. Of course, we're gonna be like close right at the corkscrew.
Go left.
This might be our first fast lap without crashing or getting off tracks.
Craig Walter said. I wonder if that Thomas J. Hunt is the TJ Hunt from YouTube. Court easy.
The fastest one?
Said. LOL, I've fallen like that before.
New fast flat for you.
I don't know, I haven't seen him. But we
Court
can just
easy.
go to his YouTube channel and see
Said.
like his iRating.
I lost a lot of iRating racing Mustangs here last week, LOL.
But you got to race Mustangs. I'm gaining iRating, but I'm driving the cars, the bathtubs, so can't have it all in life. That's what's reality, unfortunately. Ooh, too much.
Slow down. You got a penalty for cutting the course.
I was too excited around that, unfortunately. Because this was a good lap. Not a good lap, but like a good lap for us. Alright, that's enough, right? One more, just one more. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for asking one more.
Left side. Clear on the left.
Craig Walter said. He is a car builder and drifter, over 2 million subs.
Damn. No, I haven't heard about him. I'm not really into drifting. I don't know why. But I like the car builder like type of YouTube channel. There's that guy like Matt Armstrong. He's insane. I thought I could do faster, I couldn't.
Craig Walter said. He is a local to that track and sometimes take the cars he builds there.
To Laguna? Oh, there you go.
Craig
That's
Walter
Walter.
said. I watch Matt Armstrong too.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. Problem like every build is like 15,000 videos. So it's hard to follow like his new builds. I prefer seeing the old ones because it's the full story. Okay, one last lap, no mistakes.
Just set your fastest lap of the session.
Craig Walter said.
Didn't carry as
I
much
think
space
this
as I could.
Bugatti build is so many videos because of the hurdles with getting parts. I agree though.
Yeah, and also like, if he has everything in one video and the video has like 5 million views, he's losing money. It's better to have like 10 videos with 5 million views, right? Because once you see one, you want to see the rest. And a lot of those, people don't see like, as he's doing anyways. They see later. So that's how people make like large channels make money on YouTube.
Car stop on the left.
And that was a
Just set your fastest lap of the
31.98.
session.
31.98, not bad. Yeah, let's stop here. That was a 3198. Not bad. It's like 2.5 seconds off Thomas. But, yeah. Yeah, like 2 seconds for 4.7k. Yeah. Alright, that's what we're gonna be up against next season. Oh, if you look my car, on this one I put my dog's paw on the roof. Cool, right? I think it's cool. Alright, guys. That's it. Thanks a lot for joining tomorrow, Formula Friday. Don't forget, 10 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join. Make sure you join the fun as well. We can go to the open lobby and race ourselves. Just having fun. And if we have enough people, can have a hosted session as well. So let's stay and watch out. Otherwise, thanks for joining tonight, and don't forget to follow the journey, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you.